Welcome to NACTV Reads the News. My name is Gwen Jacobsen, and I'm one of many volunteers that help create programming for our station. NACTV can be seen on MTS Channel 30 or 1030, Westman Cable Channel 17, Bell Satellite Channel 592, or online at nactv.tv. These programs are made possible by our volunteers, staff, advertisers, as well as donations made by you, the viewers. If you are enjoying your NACTV experience, please consider supporting us by either donation or volunteering. You can contact our office at 204-476-2639 or at nactv@wcgwave.ca. This week's edition of the Neepawa Banner and Press is dated Friday, January 6th, 2023. And unfortunately, we have a sad article to start off the new year. Reading "One Dead, Several Homeless After Hotel Fire" by the Neepawa Banner and Press staff. A historic building in the heart of Gladstone was destroyed over the holiday season due to fire. Even more tragic, however, was the loss of a life that is unfortunately also connected with the Christmas morning blaze. In the early hours of December the 25th, fire departments from across the region, along with members of the RCMP, responded to a hotel fire on Morris Street in Gladstone. Volunteer firefighters from Gladstone, Neepawa, and Plumas would then spend the next few hours of Christmas trying to douse the flames that destroyed a historic downtown hotel and the neighboring pharmacy. Meanwhile, RCMP began evacuating buildings that were connected to the hotel. At that time, officers were advised that an adult male who resided in one of the rooms in the hotel had not been seen and was potentially still within the building. It goes on to say, once the fire was extinguished, remains for one individual were located inside. Identification of the deceased has not been officially released publicly pending an autopsy by the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. The cause of the fire is under investigation, but foul play is not suspected at this time. In an interview immediately after the fire was quelled, Westlake Gladstone Mayor Daryl Shipman noted that along with the one fatality, there were also an estimated 15 to 20 people left homeless. This was because the neighboring pharmacy did have space, which had been converted into residential apartments. The hotel is a complete loss, and the adjoining heritage building, which had been converted into apartments, was heavily damaged in the blaze, Shipman noted, although he also added that more people could have been hurt by the fire in the commercial buildings if it had occurred at a different time of year. We're very fortunate that everybody else in the apartments in the hotel were out, far away from the hotel visiting family for Christmas. Maybe that helped reduce fatalities or injuries. The mayor added, however, that there was an immediate response from locals who wanted to help those now in need. The show of support from the community has been outstanding. People want to donate goods, food, clothing, money, etc., said Shipman. As well, Shipman praised the volunteer firefighters from Gladstone, Plumas, and Neepawa, who spent many hours on site working to put out the blaze. A number of initiatives have been started locally to raise funds and find shelter and other essentials for the displaced residents. So this is the before picture. This is when the fire was really blazing. And then this was what was left, the remains after the fire was extinguished. Terrible. All right, next we have MPI reveals top 5 auto insurance frauds of 2022, submitted by Manitoba Public Insurance. So Manitoba Public Insurance, or MPI, has released a list of the top auto insurance frauds that occurred in the province in 2022, which includes a staged crash, inflated injuries, false or inaccurate reports of theft, and an incident caused by an intoxicated driver. Incidents of insurance fraud cost Manitoba ratepayers approximately $50 a year, the public insurer said in a release issued last week. According to MPI Chief Operations Officer Marnie Ketcher, nearly 3,000 claims investigations were closed in 2022, leading to savings of over $14 million. MPI releases an annual list of unique insurance fraud cases uncovered by its Special Investigations Unit, or SIU, to raise awareness of the additional costs of these claims. The list is compiled based on the estimated financial savings to MPI's ratepayers and the techniques used to confirm fraudulent actions and statements. Our SIU team works tirelessly to investigate suspicious claims in order to ensure the right claims are paid and for the right amount, said Ketcher. The following are MPI's top 5 fraudulent auto insurance claims of 2022. The discovery of these incidents saved MPI nearly $500,000, according to last week's release. So the first one is a crash staged by friends. A driver claimed they found their vehicle damaged by a semi-truck parked nearby, telling MPI that the other driver had already reported the incident and accepted liability for the crash. Investigations conducted by MPI's SIU team found that the two drivers knew each other prior to the crash and often interacted publicly on social media. Furthermore, a search of the damaged vehicle also revealed jugs of coolant and oil in the back seat. Following a full investigation, they determined that the vehicle's engine had seized due to lack of oil, with repairs anticipated to cost $45,000. The second driver later admitted to hitting the damaged vehicle with a rented moving truck. The owner also admitted to staging the crash. Denying the claim saved MPI more than $50,000, the release said. The next fraud is inflated injuries. An individual was deemed eligible to receive income replacement benefits and personal care assistance after their vehicle was hit when another driver changed lanes. The injured driver claimed they had a concussion, headaches, dizziness, back, as well as knee and neck pain and an ankle injury. These injuries were said to be so severe that they couldn't get out of bed, open water bottles, lift a pen, and had limited mobility due to balance issues, nausea, and full body pain. However, MPI's investigation showed this person was far more active than they claimed to be, with surveillance revealing that they were able to drive a motorcycle on multiple occasions, as well as walk long distances, shop for hours at several stores, and lift bags of groceries. Following this investigation, MPI informed the driver that their benefits would be terminated, allowing the public insurer to save over $300,000. The next fraud is detergent container unveils false theft report. A policyholder reported that their vehicle had been stolen from their home, signing a sworn statement to an MPI adjuster that claimed the stolen vehicle was destroyed by fire. When the burned car was found, investigators found a plastic container used to hold laundry detergent pods nearby. Further investigation by law enforcement and SIU revealed that the claimant and the car were spotted earlier in the day at a gas station where they were filling a similar detergent container with gasoline. Presented with the evidence, the individual admitted the fire was an accident and that their car had not been stolen. MPI denied the claim due to the policyholder's false statement, saving around $24,400. The next fraud is conflicting reports of a missing key. A person filed a theft claim and told MPI their SUV was stolen from their workplace during an overnight shift. Reporting the incident to the police, the individual said they misplaced one set of keys and were in possession of the only other set. However, in their claim to MPI, they said they were in possession of both sets of keys at the time that the theft took place. The SUV was later found and towed to the MPI compound. An examination by the technicians there revealed that the installed immobilizer, which protects the vehicle from being accessed without a programmed key, was still operational and functioning properly. Further investigation also found that the vehicle ignition was not damaged and had not been manipulated. MPI denied the claim and saved over $38,000 based on findings that the customer had issued conflicting reports and that they were actually in possession of both sets of keys. Now, the last fraud that they're talking about is a claim made after driving under the influence. Responding to a single vehicle rollover, law enforcement found 3 heavily intoxicated people outside a heavily damaged truck with all airbags deployed. As there were no witnesses, there was no way to determine who was driving the truck. However, one was found to be more suspicious than others because the truck was registered in the name of their spouse. The police arrested one person and released them the next day without being charged. A few days later, the same person filed a single vehicle collision claim with MPI indicating they had hit a rut and lost control of the vehicle. They also claimed that they were alone in the truck when the incident occurred and that they were sober within the past 24 hours. MPI's SIU team later learned that police had attended the scene of the crash. The claim was then denied due to the false statement that was provided, allowing MPI to save around $62,000. Okay, I'll come back to that. Okay, Right in the Center by Ken Waddell. This week it's entitled Context and Capacity. As the calendar turned to another year, I reflected on a few things. For example, this column is well over number 1,750. Seems like a lot of writing, and hopefully a few words or phrases put on this page since October 1989 have been helpful to some people. My wife and I moved to Neepawa in January of 1971. We were just kids and had a kid. Another one came along late in 71. 2 boys, and now the family has grown to a daughter-in-law, 4 grandkids, a grandson-in-law, and 3 great-grandsons. We were all able to be together on Christmas Eve, and it was nice. A special spot in the day was when the 1.5-year-old grandson decided that he should climb up on the couch and show me what he was viewing on his child-sized tablet, and I showed him some train videos on my iPhone. I don't think I understood a babbled word he said, but it was a special moment that I am not likely to forget. I was talking to the 1971 version son this week, and I said, if he learned anything from me, it should be that a degree of skepticism is important. Not cynicism, but being a skeptic is okay. Every situation, story, or legend needs to be questioned with a view about context and capacity. News coverage, or what mainstream media call news coverage, needs to be examined with skepticism, evaluated, and then the truth comes a little closer. Let's digress for a minute. This column is not news, even though it resides in a newspaper. It's a column, an opinion piece. Some would call it an editorial, but it is not news. News appears on other pages and may be about the local council, a local sports team, a new construction project, or in some cases, a story about a disaster. The problem we have today is that much of what is called news coverage is actually a mishmash of news mixed with bias and opinion. It's hard to sort it out and keep the pieces separated. It's almost impossible to separate as many news reporters put a large dose of their opinions in with the news. That's just plain wrong. And it's why, in this newspaper, news is on the news pages and columns, editorials, and letters to the editor are on the opinion pages. Now, what about context and capacity? Often you will hear a newscast or read a news story that says road conditions are dangerous. During winter in Manitoba, that's often the case. If a reporter says the conditions are the worst I have ever seen, that context is okay, as they are attaching the context to their personal experience. But if they say the conditions are the worst ever, that's not okay, as they don't have a full knowledge of conditions over the decades. Just this week, reports of flooding in California were prominent in the news, and there was a legitimate grief over a couple of deaths. The deaths, as are all accidental deaths, were indeed sad. But context is important, as likely dozens of people die every day in California and never make the news. Also, perhaps I missed the details, but the rain, snow, and runoff in California will be doing some good to alleviate the endless stories about dry rivers and empty reservoirs in that state. Then there's capacity. We have been told for years that climate change and droughts have caused the dry rivers and empty reservoirs. That could well be, but there's another side of the story. Those now dry rivers and empty reservoirs have been drawn upon by millions more people and perhaps millions more acres of irrigation than they were ever designed for. The population of California in 1960 was approximately 15,700,000. In 2020, it was 39,700,000. Do you think the additional 24 million people might be using a bit more water than was used in 1960? It doesn't matter what the news story or opinion piece is about. Always view the context and the capacity with skepticism. I used to say to only believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. That might be a bit too skeptical, but the point is evaluate everything. It will serve you well in wading through all the information that is headed your way. Disclaimer: the views expressed in this column are the writer's personal views and are not to be taken as being the view of the Neepawa Banner and Press. Now, the article by Rita Friesen, entitled, "I'm Woke." It is not often that I am in the in thing, the talked about thinking. There is a movement that I have become aware of, the woke movement. It is a noun. Talking with my sister, I plainly asked her what this is. She sent me a list, 10 symptoms of woke mind virus. Number 1, you read books and don't burn them. Number 2, you embrace science. Number 3, you are willing to change your mind when new information becomes available. Number 4, you understand that most issues are not black and white. Number 5, you believe in true equality for all people. Number 6, you like to share. Number 7, you embrace cooperation. Number 8, you respect others' rights. Number 9, you believe culture and the arts has value. And number 10, you care for the planet and all of its life. Speaking with her children, they concluded it could be summed up as a definition of a decent human being. We did agree that number 3 can be challenging and should be. I want to know from where this new information came, who found it, who said it, who backs it, that sort of important details. The topic has caused me to wonder how we as a people have moved so far from these basic concepts that being decent is radical. The topic built for me on my recent concerns that the general population has appeared to have lost a servant/serving heart. I know the career choices out there are endless today compared to the ones open for us/me when I completed high school back in the early 60s. Then out of our class of 12, 3 went into nursing, 2 into teaching, and several others went to university, and I have lost track of what they achieved. Granted, to obtain a teaching certificate then required 1 year of normal school. That changed to 2 years shortly after, and to become an RN required 2 intensive years, usually at the Grace Hospital or the St. Boniface. And in my opinion, that produced incredibly talented and gifted and dedicated teachers and nurses. And then there is the career of spiritual ministry. Only one of my classmates went directly to a ministerial college. Some have chosen ministry as a second career. Again, in my opinion, these careers require a serving/servant heart. Back to being woke. On social media, one individual expressed concern that her health care would probably be given by a woke person. My question is, how can that be concerning? I want someone with these values to provide care for me, physically, mentally, and spiritually. For me, having these values is a positive game changer, not a concern. There are now mugs available with woke slogans. One I appreciate says, woke, noun. Number 1, alert to prejudice and injustice. Number 2, not a prick. I would like to order a dozen of these, please. How times have changed in my lifetime. There used to be deep conversations around what makes a good person better and how to help others deal with trauma and distress to become a better person. Now we scrutinize good people. Again, it's not often I am in, but by golly, I'm proud to be woke. And Faithfully Yours by Neil Stroshine. This week it's called Embracing the New Normal. For the past 2 to 3 years, we've been hearing about the new normal. Unfortunately, few of those who use the terms are able to define it. All they can say is that life in our post-COVID, globally warming and politically uncertain world will be much different than its pre-pandemic version, and that major lifestyle adjustments will be required of all of us. The past years have taught us just how quickly a powerful virus can disrupt the lives of people around our world. We've also watched, sometimes in amazement, sometimes in shock and horror, as people in positions of political and economic power have sought to use people's fear of COVID, influenza, and other diseases for political and economic gain. In all honesty, there are times when I wonder who these servants of the people are really serving and what their vision of a new normal for Canadians really is. We may soon learn part of the answer to that question. Just before Christmas, the federal government announced that by 2026, 1/5 of all passenger cars, SUVs, and trucks sold in Canada will need to run on electricity. Good idea? On paper, yes, but some huge practical issues may make that goal unattainable. The biggest challenge will be upgrading the electrical infrastructure so that it can handle the growing demand for home and public charging stations. And in this part of the world, we need batteries that won't lose 35% of their capacity the moment the outside temperature drops below -20 Celsius. This will require massive outlays of federal and provincial funds, and all this while we are in the middle of a global recession. Experts are already predicting that these goals will be modified to allow existing Canadian factories to be retooled and new ones built so that the vehicles and the batteries required to power them can be made in Canada from materials sourced in Canada. For you, me, and all Canadians, the question we must answer is this: how will I react to the changes I must make to adapt to this new normal? Two options are set before us. We can dig in our heels and refuse to adapt to it, or we can embrace it and face the challenges it will bring with courage, confidence, and faith. But that will require some major changes in us. These changes are contained in one phrase St. Paul uses in Romans 12, verse 2. Do not be conformed to this world. Instead, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. In other words, our first priority for this new year must be doing some mental, emotional, and spiritual house cleaning. We need to examine the core truths and values that govern how we think, speak, and act. We need to identify those that cause antisocial behavior, eliminate them, and replace them with core truths that help us respect the planet and the people who share it with us. This is not nearly as easy as it sounds. In fact, if we trust in our own knowledge, wisdom, and power to achieve this change, we will accomplish nothing. Fortunately, help is available. The God who created this world and its people has given us a book that shows us where we have gone wrong, how to fix the problems we've caused, and how to live in peace and harmony with others. As we face the new normal, we need those insights more than ever. They are readily available. We need to read, understand, and obey them. Now we have a picture here of a local fundraiser ringing in the new year. A major fundraiser by a Neepawa area Filipino group was held on New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2022 at the Legion Hall, aiding multiple beneficiaries. These beneficiaries were the Verano family, Michelle Bongolo, Michaela, daughter of Dennis Tai, Glenn Loyola, and Jenny Balas's family, who are mostly in need of financial assistance due to high costs of medical needs. Those pictured here are members of the organizing committee and some of the beneficiaries. Good for them. So I'm going to read the thumbs up, thumbs down this week. And they are all thumbs up, thank goodness. Thumbs up to the Neepawa Co-op gas station staff. They noticed a low tire. They asked me to meet them inside the car wash and checked and filled all 4 tires during the cold snap. Thank you. By Merv Dag of Neepawa. Thumbs up and a thank you to Amanda and staff at the Salvation Army thrift store, also to the Banner and Press, NACTV, Muriel Gami, my wife Sylvia, and all who made investments in Compassion Canada's Child Survival Program by purchasing wood items at my woodcraft sale. Sincere thanks from Fred Quist of Neepawa. A special thumbs up to Linda Crooks and George Pugh and their helpers for spending their Christmas Day at the Gladstone 55 Plus Senior Centre, providing the firefighters a warm place, food, and a warm drink while they fought the fire at the Gladstone Hotel. From Carrie McLennan of Gladstone. The last one, thumbs up, doesn't do justice to the tremendous job Pat Baker did in removing burnable structures from beside the Galloway building and keeping fire contained with the tremendous help of Gladstone Fire Department. Huge honor to Fire Chief Lorne Hunt and his bravery. Great job, guys, from John Lackey of Gladstone. Okay. Helen Drysdale out of Helen's Kitchen. Warm, delicious, and perfect for that cold winter weekend morning. These 2 recipes will please your family. The French toast recipe is made in the oven instead of standing at the stove, making 2 to 3 slices at a time. It is the perfect way to feed a hungry breakfast crew. orange oven French bread, and the other one is apple pie monkey bread. I'll have to go online to read all of that. All right, Your Listening Ear by Delcy Martin. This week it's entitled Resolutions Don't Always Work. Let's have an open conversation about New Year's resolutions. I'm torn on how I feel about them because there are benefits and downsides to setting them. Resolutions work very well for some because the verbalization of the goal as a resolution can really help with accountability, especially if you share your resolution with others. When set responsibly, they can give a time-limited, like 365 days, intentional and self-motivating goal which can hopefully build into a habit which will last a lifetime. The problem with resolutions is that they don't work for everyone, and there's a whole lot of societal pressure to set them. For some, the act of setting the goal and failing to reach it can be chalked up to a giggle and a, "Oops, I fell off the bandwagon." But for others, this fall can result in intense feelings of shame and guilt. If an individual has pre-existing tendencies towards shame and guilt, and they are not actively working on the tendencies, the act of setting a resolution might be too far ahead in their healing journey to reach right now. Instead, these individuals might want to set for themselves a direct intention of self-compassion. Self-compassion / empathy for yourself can make all the difference in how you perceive your ability to complete a goal, and if you think that you can complete it, you are at a much higher chance of following through. Maybe the first step in your overall goal needs to be establishing a better rapport with yourself. You see, not everyone is motivated by setting a goal and goal, by set a goal and go. Some are motivated by unconditional positive regard from love and from connection. So before you set a New Year's resolution, do some self-reflection to ensure that you are doing so because it's in your best interests and it is a motivating thing for you, not because you feel pressured to do it. How do you get your fire to complete something? Think about when you achieved something in the past, even if it seems small to you. What circumstances existed to aid you in that achievement? Those circumstances that were in place might be able to be put in place for a current goal, or at least some components of what worked for you before. When you are setting a goal, write down your overall goal, but below it, write down your steps to reach the big goal. How many small steps can you make? Your next goal is not the big one, but the first step you need to reach to get to the big one. If you do fall off the bandwagon, it's not a big deal. It doesn't mean complete failure. Everyone falls off the bandwagon. When you see inspirational posts online about someone who has made major changes in their life, you are only seeing the result, not the steps and failures within those steps that it took to get them there. So if you are setting a New Year's resolution, I applaud you and send you lots of positive vibes. If you've decided that it's not your thing, I also applaud you for recognizing what you need to complete your life goals. Everyone needs to have goals, and everyone, no matter how they set those goals, needs to have some self-compassion to succeed. Delcy Martin, BA, BSW, RSW, MSW candidate, is a Masters of Social Work student with the University of Calgary. Anyone who may have feedback on the column or wish to have a question anonymously answered as part of the weekly column may reach Martin at delcymartin@trueyoutherapy.ca. Now, there's a big reveal planned for Neepawa Health Centre meeting by Ken Waddell. New details on the new Neepawa Health Centre will be revealed on January the 12th at a meeting at Neepawa's Legion. In an exclusive interview with Banner and Press Prairie Mountain CEO Brian Schoonbart noted that the health center has been reviewed by the medical and healthcare staff, but this will be an opportunity for input from the public. Also, as with any project, there will be changes as construction proceeds. The architects will be in attendance at the meeting to show plans for various aspects of the hospital. A question and answer time for public input will be held after the initial presentation. The Neepawa Health Centre was announced last fall by Agassiz MLA Eileen Clark and Health Minister Audrey Gordon. It is being built in the east end of Neepawa and is estimated to cost $127 million. Earthwork and preliminary construction has already begun, but an expanded construction schedule is anticipated in the spring of 2023. The project may take 2 to 3 years to complete. The health center is planned to have 63 beds and will have expanded services, perhaps most notably kidney dialysis service and an expanded emergency room. The general public will get information about access to the hospital as the exact location on the site. The meeting is scheduled for 5:00 p.m. Now we have a picture of the Neepawa Men's Shed. They are grateful for continued support by Casper Warehan. The Neepawa Men's Shed received an early Christmas gift just before the holidays last year. Miles for Mental Health President Diane Martin met with members of the group on December the 21st, presenting them with a donation of $1,000. The funds given were collected via a variety of fundraising efforts and other opportunities that Miles for Mental Health has been a part of. We felt it was important to support them and other guys in the community looking to get involved, said Martin. The Neepawa Men's Shed has done so much, not just for us, but for the community as a whole. What they do is awesome. Providing an example, Martin made note of the activity stations, such as the step-up exercise station that can be seen on some of the walking paths around Neepawa. More recent projects include picnic tables for the Neepawa Middle School and a new cross for the Calvary Chapel. However, there are many more that could be mentioned. Colin McNerney, who accepted the check on behalf of the Men's Shed, was absolutely thrilled by the surprise. He said, "We did not apply for this funding, but they've seen what we've done around the community and wanted to support us, which is just fantastic." Miles for Mental Health was our first sponsor and continues to be our sponsor. Both McNerney and the Men's Shed as a whole extends their gratitude for the donation. There are no restrictions on how to use the funds, so the Men's Shed can apply them in a way that will best benefit the group. All right, the sports page. Neepawa Titans ready for challenges second half of MJHL season will bring, by Owen Devereaux. The Neepawa Titans are starting 2023 in a position they have not been in for far too long, that of a legitimate contender. After a slow start to the MJHL regular season, the Titans have turned their fortunes around and begin January with a 14-14, 6-1 record, good enough for 35 points and a 500 winning percentage on the season. To put this accomplishment in context, Neepawa have not been 500 or better percentage this late into the regular season since 2011. While these results could be viewed as a huge step forward by long-term fans of the team, Titans head coach and GM Ken Pearson said these results have to be the expectation. I would say we are close to where I thought we would be. We lost a few games early in the year or gave away a point to other teams, which has put us behind expectations and chasing a few teams. Pearson added, however, that the organization is still very excited to see the optimism grow throughout the fan base in the community as this season has progressed. A notable reason for the Titans' turnaround could be attributed to an increase to offensive production. For the first 2 months of the regular season, Neepawa was at or near the bottom of the league in goals scored. That has changed as of late, however, as over the last 6 weeks of 2022, the team moved up to a respectable 8th place in league scoring with 107 goals. Pearson said the improvement is due in part to the addition of more depth to their roster, with Briley Wood and Connor Thompson joining the club. As well, Pearson noted younger players such as Cooper Kasperk, Carter McLeod, and Mason Hartley are progressing faster than expected. Recent performances from Hayden Stocks, 22 points in 16 games, and Braden Michalchuk, 13 points in 14 games, could also be added to the list of reasons for Neepawa's improvement. The Titans will hope to keep their momentum going as they return to the ice with a pair of games against the surprising Niverville Nighthawks, who are 17-13-1-1 with 36 points. These two teams will play in Neepawa on Friday, January 6th. The start time at the Yellowhead Centre is set for 7:30 p.m. And the Neepawa Farmers beat Pilot Mound in a shootout by Owen Devereaux. The Neepawa Farmers closed out 2022 with an impressive come-from-behind 7-6 win over the Pilot Mound Pilots. The Farmers scored a pair of goals with just a little over 2 minutes left in regulation on Friday, December 30th, to send the game into overtime. Neither team was able to score in the extra time, so it had to be decided by a shootout where Neepawa would ultimately prevail. The specific scoring results for the shootout were not posted on the available game stats listed on the Tiger Hills Hockey League's website. In regulation, Kyle McDonald, who is Neepawa's points leader for the year, once again led the way. He would end the night with 3 goals and now has 31 points, 14 goals and 17 assists for the season. That puts him into the top 5 in overall league scoring on the year. Other goal scorers for the Farmers included Reagan Buchanan, who scored with just 34 seconds left in regulation to send the game into OT. Braden Gillies and Zach Hicks also scored for the Farmers, while Matty Harold with 3 goals, Brody DeRoche, Graham Dobson, and Kyle Moore represented for the Pilots. The next home game for Neepawa will be on Saturday, January 7th, when the Farmers host the Minnedosa Bombers. 2022 closed out with a game between the top 2 teams in the Eastern Division, the Minnedosa Bombers and the Gladstone Lakers. At the end of the night, Minnedosa proved itself as the superior squad, winning 7-1. Ryan Haino scored a pair of goals and added 1 assist for the Bombers, while his teammate John Cowell contributed 3 points of his own, 1 goal and 2 assists. Kelly Stinson, Brad Lewis, Carter Headley, and Logan Robinson also scored for Minnedosa, while Gabriel Bolio scored the only goal for Gladstone. With the win, Minnedosa improved its record to 8-5-0, while Gladstone fell to 7-3-0. Okay, don't think there's anything there. Neepawa resident wins $250,000. What? Submitted by Western Canada Lottery Corporation. Kimberly Kalbaki is happy she added the extra to her ticket for the December 2nd Lotto Max draw. That's because the $1 edition won her the game's top prize of $250,000. The Neepawa resident purchased her ticket from the 7-Eleven food store at 10 Main Street in Neepawa on the afternoon of the draw. She won by exactly matching all 7 numbers of the winning extra number, 1159265. Kalbaki discovered her big win when she was picking up her ticket for the next draw. I gave the ticket to the cashier. The bells went off and the clerk said, "Congratulations, you just won $250,000. I never thought someone would tell me that." The happy winner has a few ideas for her windfall. "I have 2 daughters that I'd like to help out, and then I'll set up for retirement with a small home. It's just unreal," she added. Long shot but no gamble at New Year's Eve party. What a way to end the year. These true troubadours may call themselves long shot, but it was a sure thing. December 31st at Neepawa's Boston Pizza. Ron Nordstrom and Blair Huey McLaughlin made us all winners with music and banter from 7 p.m. until just after midnight. A large group of diners and revelers were out, and rumor has it that a repeat event might be in the plans. Nordstrom retired from the education system and has been writing lyrics, singing, and forming music groups such as Lunch Money and Swamp Gas, etc., almost non-stop. McLaughlin takes his music pretty seriously since his retirement from the poultry industry. He's part of several music groups and has appeared, excuse me, and has appeared in many venues across the province. All right, the last article I'm going to read is Looking Back by Casper Werhan. Believe it or not, this goes back 110 years ago, Tuesday, January 7th in 1913. It is understood that W. Wigmore has disposed of his agricultural implement business and building to H. Collius of Winnipeg, who takes possession at once. Mr. Collius is an experienced salesman, having been for some time with the Singer Sewing Machine Company and as an executive as well as selling capacity. Taking over such a well-established business as Mr. Wigmore's, there's ought to be early and ample returns for the energy and capacity which Mr. Collius will put into it. Mr. Wigmore will devote his time almost exclusively to the duties of postmaster. 100 years ago, Friday, January 12, 1923. Sufficient snow has fallen this winter to more than satisfy all demands of health, pleasure, business, transportation, and crop production next season. Let us see to it that we make the best of it. 90 years ago, Friday, January 6, 1933, the Knights of Pythias have secured quarters under the Roxy Theatre for lodge room purposes and have moved their equipment from the former location over the restroom. Don't know what that means. 80 years ago, Thursday, January 7th, 1943. Private Margaret Young of Kelwood, Manitoba, on December 7th began a general stenographic course with a group of members of the Canadian Women's Corps at Winnipeg, it is announced by military authorities. The course includes general office routine, military office routine, typing, and calculation. The course will fit her for a trade test at the completion of her studies. She enlisted in the Canadian Women's Army Corps last summer. 70 years ago, Thursday, January 8th, 1953, Elle and Flo Dimitruk are happy to announce the arrival of their son, Wesley Alexander, on December 28th, 1952, in the Neepawa District Memorial Hospital, a brother for Deanna and Lloyd. 60 years ago, Tuesday, January 15th, 1963, the hustling Kelwood Club became the first holders of the new Vivian Hotel Trophy here Saturday, taking the high-scoring final game in the rural hockey tournament from the St. Rose Royals 11-6. More than 600 fans attended the Saturday feature at the sports arena. Then 50 years ago, 1973, the Neepawa Sports Arena, who we just talked about from 10 years ago, which has squatted at the corner of Davidson Street and Brown Avenue since the early 30s, is now just a skeleton as workmen continue to dismantle the building. The demolition will be completed in a very short time now, and the site will be leveled to make room for a new 6-story apartment block for senior citizens, which is still there. And the theme of the Older Boys Parliament of Manitoba and Northern West Ontario this year was conscience and tolerance. Get this, many of the fellows did not realize the degree of tolerance they would be expected to show. 8 girls had come to Parliament. There had been a great deal of speculation on how well girls would be received. Girls may now become full members of the Youth Parliament of Manitoba and Northwest Ontario. Imagine that. Now, 40 years ago, Thursday, January 6, 1983, 2 Neepawa natives were members of the first old-timers hockey team to face off against the Russians on their own soil. Larry Evans and Murray Wilkie traveled to Russia as members of the Winnipeg clubs to square off against the first team Russia, who played against Canada in that infamous matchup 9 years ago. The Winnipeg clubs are made up of ex-professional hockey players for the most part, and here we have a picture of them from that time. Larry Evans and Murray Wilkie of Neepawa, pictured in 1983, just before Christmas, and this picture was taken in 82. Cease Bolton had an opportunity to try out a pair of ancient skates at the family skating party Sunday afternoon. He acquired the wooden skates with metal blades from Bill Heel of Neepawa, who said they came from the attic of his grandfather's former farm home, 5 miles east of Merrifield, Saskatchewan. His grandfather, Samuel George McAdoo, came to Manitoba from overseas in the last century. And the Brookdale School teachers treated the students to an old-fashioned sleigh ride on Friday, December 17th. This is 1983. Mr. Wes Ferguson of Minnedosa, with his team of Belgian horses, was a beautiful sight driving around the village. The sleigh bells worn on the horses had been purchased by Mr. Ferguson's father in 1919. The weatherman cooperated and sent a perfect day, and everyone enjoyed themselves. 30 years ago, in 1993, belated 46th wedding anniversary wishes to Betty and Jack Oliver in Langruth. Okay. 20 years ago, Monday, January 6, 2003, also in Brookdale, get this, the Brookdale School students were treated to a sleigh ride December 20th when Abe Christensen and Cecil Brock brought up their team of horses. Some of us around town enjoyed the ride too. There was enough snow for good sledding. So that does it for this week's edition of the Neepawa Banner and Press. So thank you very much for joining us today, and we shall see you another day. Bye for now.